A laundry list of charges could get even longer for an Akron man. Tonight, we're learning new details about the search of a closed-up church tied to 41-year-old Shante Harden. Earlier this week, investigators executed a warrant at the Greater Faith Missionary Baptist Church after hearing reports of cremated remains inside. News 5's Clay Lepard shares what investigators found.
At first glance, what's left of this church in Akron doesn't appear to attract a lot of attention. But it's what's inside that investigators say startled an urban explorer to the point where she called the State of Ohio Board of Embalmers and Funeral Directors. Court paperwork details how 89 different sets of cremated remains were stored on the first floor inside Greater Faith Missionary Baptist Church, as this photo shows, inside white cardboard boxes and plastic bags.
There's significant health issues, significant dignity issues. This is not just a regulatory issue. And some of the things we're seeing there are just not right.
News 5 previously reported on the owner of the church, Shante Harden, who is currently charged with more than 36 counts for allegedly providing funeral services without a license. News 5 spoke with Harden's attorney, who said the cremated remains actually belonged to former Toledo funeral director Robert Tate, who had his license pulled in 2016. The lawyer went on to say that Shante Harden agreed to store the remains while Tate tried to reach the families.
Several neighbors we spoke to off camera said that they had been suspicious for quite some time about what exactly had been going on inside this church. Now, they say they just hope the space gets put to good use.
Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost told News 5 the investigation continues. However, he hopes, from what people have seen so far, there's a lesson to be taken away.
Well, make sure that you are dealing with a licensed professional who's going to abide by the laws and the appropriate health regulations. And secondly, reach out to somebody who's been through it. Get the advice of somebody you trust.
It's not clear at this time what will happen to the remains of those loved ones found and when they could finally be returned to their families. In Akron, Clay Lepard, News 5.
More now along the lines of what Mr. Yost was just speaking about. Planning a funeral for a loved one can add to the stress and the grief you're already feeling after that loss. But there are things you need to do to make sure you are not taken advantage of. First off, make sure the funeral home you're working with is registered with the state, either through Ohio's Board of Embalmers and Funeral Directors or the Better Business Bureau. You do have the right to buy goods and services separately, so you do not have to accept an entire package. And funeral directors must give you a price list if you ask for one.
You just don't want to be given one price maybe and then get in the office and find out that there's a lot of things that need to be added to it.
As for burials and cremations, Ohio has no embalming requirements except in cases of communicable disease deaths. There's also no law requiring use of a casket for cremation, so you can provide the funeral home with a casket or an urn that you buy elsewhere.